Welcome to Grantium. Grantium is the online grants management system, GMS, of the Office of Policy and Management. All grant administration transactions for the 2015 JAG VCP program will be done through the Grantium Front Office online portal. How to submit a quarterly financial report. The purpose of this video is to explain how to submit a quarterly financial report for your 2015 JAG VCP grant project. Grantium Front Office Portal Web Address. All grant administration transactions for the 2015 JAG VCP program will be done through the Grantium Front Office online portal. The Grantium Front Office portal web address is http://www.opmgrants.computercompany.net/grantiem/front-office.jsf. Please add this web address to your browser favorites. Grantium Logon Instructions. Access to Grantium requires a username and password. The usernames and passwords have been emailed directly to the 2015 JAG VCP Project Officer and Financial Officer. If you have forgotten your password, please click the Forgot Your Password link. 5 wrong password attempts will result in being locked out of the application, and you must call OPM at that point. Grantium Directives. As we begin the process of managing submission documents within Grantium, it is very important to follow the instructions presented throughout this video. The purpose of these videos is to direct you to accomplish the tasks at hand with a minimum of confusion and/or unintentional miscues or missteps. Managing your grant project in Grantium is simply a sequence of tasks that must be performed in the order given as demonstrated through these videos. Please be very cautious about the use of the Submit button. Please use the Submit button only when instructed to do so. Please do not submit forms or other materials out of sequence or ahead of time. How many quarters are there during the life of this grant? The end date of the 2015 JAG VCP grant program is December 31st, 2015. Therefore, there are 3 reporting quarters for this grant: April 15th to June 30th, July 1st to September 30th, and October 1st to December 31st. However, if there are unpaid obligations remaining at the December 31st deadline, an additional quarterly form, January 1st to March 31st, would be required. Which quarterly reports are required for my grant project? There will be a maximum of 4 separate quarterly reports per grant project, depending upon your budgeted grant activities. 1. The quarterly financial report. 2. The quarterly progress report, which should also include all invoices for the quarter. 3. The quarterly property inventory report for equipment and purchases. And 4. The quarterly time accountability for police personnel paid with grant funds. Please note, the grant project officer and/or the grant financial officer are responsible for submitting all quarterly reports in Grantium. What is the deadline for submitting quarterly reports? All quarterly reports must be submitted no later than 15 days after the end of the calendar quarter. For instance, if the quarter ends on June 30th, 2015, the deadline is July 15th. The quarter ending September 30th is due on October 15th, and the quarterly ending December 31st will be due on January 15th, 2016. In the case of needing a quarterly ending 3/31/2016, the due date would be 4/15/2016. Please note, the grant project officer and/or the grant financial officer are responsible for submitting all quarterly reports in Grantium. Submitting the quarterly financial report. Finding your quarterly financial report in Grantium. Access your secure workspace with your login credentials. Use the left-hand navigation pane to navigate to Submissions. The quarterly reports will become visible and available to complete 15 days before the end of the quarter. They will then be accessible for completion for 45 days and will become unavailable on the last day of the month following the quarter's end. For example, quarter ending June 30th, 2015 will be visible as of June 16th and will become unavailable as of July 31st, 2015. The submission will appear as such as indicated in the blue box below. Click on the orange file folder under Actions to open the quarterly financial report. This is an example of finding your quarterly expenditure report in Grantium. Access your secure workspace with your login credentials. Use the left-hand navigation pane to navigate to Submissions. Find the JAG VCP quarter ending 6/30/2015 form in the list of submissions. Click on the orange folder under Actions to open the JAG VCP quarter ending 6/30/2015 form. Your quarterly expenditure report form will appear on the screen. Prepare to enter your quarterly expenditures in the column marked Year 1, Quarter 4 for the period of 4/1/2015 through 6/30/2015. Please note, the project officer or financial officer must submit this form in Grantium each quarter regardless if there are 0 expenditures or not. Also, if there is a final completed prior to the end of the grant period, no further reporting is required. What does a quarterly financial report look like? All quarterly financial reports are set up to present 4 calendar quarters on a single page. The 2015 JAG VCP grant program has been set up in Grantium so that the front office user will only be able to submit data for the exact quarter required. Expenditure data can only be entered in the exact quarter required for submission. Once the quarterly expenditure data has been submitted to OPM, any changes must be authorized by OPM via an amendment to the existing quarterly financial report. Quarterly financial report relationship to your budget. There is a direct relationship with the 2015 JAG VCP grant project budget submitted and approved by OPM and the quarterly financial report. All budgeted line items in the 2015 JAG VCP grant project budget appears as the budgeted amount column in the quarterly financial report. Line item expenditures cannot exceed the budgeted amount column in the quarterly financial report. Reporting expenditures. Expenses incurred during the quarter should be reported by relevant line item. Examples of expenditures include equipment items ordered and received, patrol hours worked, salaries paid, training sessions conducted, attended, and paid for, and contractual services with invoices received and paid. Reporting unpaid obligations. An obligation occurs when funds are committed, such as a valid purchase order or requisition to cover the cost of purchasing an authorized budgeted item. An item can be expensed when the item or service has been purchased and received and are implemented and invoiced within the quarter. An unpaid obligation means funds are committed, such as in a valid purchase order or requisition to cover the costs of purchasing an authorized item, except you have not received the item or implemented the contractual service, etc. during the quarter. For example, you have been informed by your vendor that the item you requested has been backordered. The value of that item should be listed as an unpaid obligation. Once the item is received, the unpaid obligation disappears and the value of the item is recorded as an expense in the appropriate expenditure line. An unpaid obligation is a clear commitment of funds and must be reported as such under the Department of Justice financial accounting rules. Reporting required even if there are no expenses. A quarterly financial report is required whether or not any activities or any expenditures have occurred during the reporting quarter. You must report 0 expenditures in every relevant category, even if there has been no project activity and no expenditure of funds during the quarter. Submit the quarterly financial report. Submitting the quarterly financial report will be a three-step process. Step 1. Quarterly expenditure submission form. Enter your quarterly expenditure data. Select the next button to move to Step 2. Step 2. The detailed expenditure report form. This is an interim step and no data input is required. Select the next button to move to Step 3. Step 3. Submission summary form. Submit the quarterly financial report. Select the Submit button to submit your quarterly financial report to OPM. Submitting your quarterly expenditure report. What does a quarterly financial report look like? A quarterly financial report will always appear with 4 discrete columns, one for each calendar quarter during the fiscal year. You will only be able to enter quarterly expenditure data in the current quarter. Fields that have been grayed out are not accessible for data entry. Please note, the project officer or financial officer must submit this form in Grantium each quarter. The quarterly financial report relationship to the project budget. The budgeted amount in each line item on the left-hand side of the quarterly financial report is pre-filled from your application budget submission. These budgeted amounts cannot be changed on these forms. Changes to these budgeted amount line items must be authorized and approved by OPM. Reporting expenditures. First, choose Quarterly in the Quarterly Report type. Enter your quarterly expenditures by line item. These are costs and expenses that have been incurred, invoiced, and paid during the quarter. Examples of expenditures could include equipment items ordered and received, patrol hours worked, salaries paid, training sessions conducted, attended, and paid for, and contractual services invoiced, received, and paid. For example, enter $1,000 in personnel and $1,000 in equipment. Reporting unpaid obligations. Unpaid obligations must be reported if they occur during the quarter. Unpaid obligations exist when funds are committed, such as when a valid purchase order or requisition has been cut to cover the cost of purchasing an authorized item. Except you have not received the item or the invoice and have not paid for the item during this quarter. For example, the 2 radios you ordered last month, valued at $500, have been placed on back order and will not arrive for 60 days. Enter $500 in unpaid obligations. Reporting required even if there are no expenses. A quarterly financial report must be submitted even if there is no activity for the grant. The quarterly financial report must be submitted with all zeros for expenditures. Please note, the project officer or financial officer must submit this form in Grantium each quarter. Submitting the quarterly financial report. The submission of the quarterly financial report is a 3-step process. Step 1. Enter your quarterly expenses in the quarterly expenditure submission form and select the Save and Next button. Step 2. The detailed expenditure report form appears. No input is required on this form. Scroll to the bottom of the page and select the Next button. Step 3. The submission summary page appears. Select Submit button. The quarterly financial report has now been submitted to OPM. Can I print a copy of the quarterly financial report? You can print a PDF copy of the quarterly financial report if you choose to do so. There will be an Export to PDF link in the lower bottom portion of the left-hand navigation pane. Click on the Export to PDF link to produce a PDF copy of the Grantium quarterly financial report. You must have PDF software installed on your PC for this function to work. Printing your quarterly expenditure report. This is an example of printing your quarterly expenditure report. Access your secure workspace with your login credentials. Use the left-hand navigation pane to navigate to Submissions. Find the JAG VCP quarter ending 6/30/2015 form in the list of submissions. Click on the orange file folder under Actions to open the JAG VCP quarter expenditure 6/30/2015 form. Your quarterly expenditure form will appear on the screen. There will be an Export to PDF link in the lower bottom portion of the left-hand navigation pane. Click on the Export to PDF link to produce a PDF copy of the Grantium quarterly expenditure report. Print the form to your local printer. Please note, you must have PDF software installed on your PC for this function to work. Grantium Logout Instructions. The Grantium Logout icon will always be in the upper right-hand corner of the web page. Click the Logout icon to exit Grantium. Any questions? Please call. If you have any questions, please contact Nicole Labonte or Steve Moniz using the information below. This concludes the How to Submit a Quarterly Financial Report video tutorial. Thank you for watching.